Hello, everybody. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to model how to write a précis. It's pronounced précis. It's a French word, which is a short paragraph that outlines the central argument of a text. So this is an important skill because, it shows that you can clearly understand a writer's argument and how they're making that argument, and you can clearly express that to other people. Clear communication, the heart of good reading and writing. You're going to be writing one of these for the foreword of The Bluest Eye. So doing that is going to make sure that you are grounded in some important themes of the text. So as I model, you're going to take notes right here on the steps I take to outline the argument of this piece and write my paragraph. So this is the piece. It's called Soapbox and Odyssey by Marcia Worth Baker. It's from 1998. So again, you are taking notes on the steps that I'm taking right now. So first, my step one is to get those basics. So the title, the author, the genre, the date. This is the title. This is the author. The genre, this is an editorial from the New York Times. And this was it from 1998. So that's going to be my first sentence that I write in my précis. So again, that step one is to just name those basics: title, genre, date, author. So in her editorial, Soapbox and Odyssey, which appeared in the New York Times in 1998, teacher Marcia Worth Baker, blah, blah, blah. So that's step one, those basics. Step two, I need to state the overall argument or thesis of the text, which I do by annotating it for gist. So you can see in my annotations here that I have summed up the important ideas and arguments as I read through the text. And I determined that her central message is that real leadership means owning up to your mistakes and trying to do better. So I have all these comments about what her sort of, the gist of each section or each paragraph. She's having these kids put themselves in the shoes of Odysseus, the hero of Homer's Odyssey, to convince their classmates to join the journey. So she's having them kind of act this out in an exercise in leadership. So again, my step two was to identify the central argument of the text. So she kind of gets to that at the end when she says, when my students, so the children who sit before me, saw in Homer's hero that one person can be both powerful and foolish, equally full of influence and errors. When my students learn to see this in themselves, they will become at last good leaders. So basically her argument is that good leadership means that knowing your weaknesses as well as your strengths, and not hiding from them. So that's how I finished that first sentence. So she argues that good leadership means owning up to your mistakes and weaknesses in addition to your strengths and always striving to do better. So step two, summing up the author's central argument, the overall argument that they're making. So step three then is I need to outline how she builds this argument, right? She doesn't just repeat the same argument over and over again. She makes multiple sub-arguments to make that larger point. So she starts by saying that she's a teacher. She is teaching her students the Odyssey, and her students need to learn good leadership more than anything. So then after reading the Odyssey, she has them do this exercise in leadership. She goes through the leadership and persuasion styles of three different students. So the first student kind of goes with like brute force. He says, "I'm your king. I'm going to arrest you if you don't get on my ship." No one responds to this. He doesn't convince anyone to join him. The second student makes a bunch of lavish promises, right? If you come with me, I'll divide my share of the gold. I'll do most of the rowing, right? Most students also don't go for that, making extra, extravagant promises. Finally, the most convincing or best leadership style is from a girl who says, "Look, I've made mistakes, and here's how I'm going to do better in the future." So those are kind of the main arguments or the main sort of points that she goes through in order to build this argument that last leadership style is the best. So that's what I do next in my paragraph, is I kind of just trace those mini arguments that she makes. So I go through, each sort of style that she talks about in her piece, just summing up those different points that she makes. So that's step 3, is to explain those mini arguments in my paragraph. So that's going to be the bulk of your paragraph, probably 2 or 3 sentences explaining the author's sort of sub mini arguments that they use to make their larger point. Okay, we're halfway done. That was step 3. As I'm finishing my paragraph, I need to identify the audience that the author is addressing. And since she's a teacher and she's talking about how to teach children leadership skills, I'd say her audience is other teachers and parents. So step 4, identify the audience. Step 4, identify the audience. Step 5, I also need to identify the tone that she uses, the overall tone, right? So this is the author's attitude toward what she's talking about. So I'd say she uses a slightly humorous or self-deprecating tone. She says at the end, I replied probably unhelpfully, right? So she's kind of saying like, yeah, I don't know everything either, right? So which fits with her overall message, right? Because she's saying that you can't take yourself too seriously and you need to understand your own weaknesses. So step 5 was identify the tone of the author. So, and then finally, step 6, I need to sum up the purpose of the text. So this is related to the argument, right? But purpose is different in that it is what the author wants the audience to go forth and think or do or feel after reading this text. So I'm kind of reminding my reader of the central argument, and I'm connecting it to the audience and the tone that I just named. So she uses that tone to address her specific audience in order to reinforce her message that adults should own up to their mistakes. They have to model and teach the children they interact with this, crucial skill of recognizing your own mistakes and not hiding from them. So again, step 6 was summing all this up into the purpose of the text. So connecting the central argument to the audience and the tone, summing up the purpose of the text. That was step 6. All right, so that is all. Those are the 6 steps. We will go through these as a class as well. Feel free to rewind if you missed any of those steps, add them to your notes.